how to be an entertainment reporter.
Or just say like something along the lines of like why you did it. So many people have reached out to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Savannah. How to be an entertainment reporter or break into the entertainment industry. We're not sure. It's a very broad topic today. So ever since I did a reporter video a couple years ago, I've had some people reach out to me on email and social media and ask about entertainment reporting specifically. I am not an entertainment reporter and I'm not in the entertainment business, so I cannot tell you how to go about that, but I did reach out to someone that you might recognize and someone that can. I reached out to Jake Hamilton. He is an Emmy-winning entertainment anchor for Chicago's Fox 32 News, and he is the co-host of Real Blend podcast. And if you checked his Instagram, you'll see that Tom Hanks once hugged him, which could be the most impressive thing about him. We did a quick Zoom call. He is a fantastic person. He had some amazing advice, some really funny stories, so listen for yourself.
I apologize if I'm a horrible interview.
I have a feeling you'll be amazing. You are an entertainment reporter in Chicago for Fox. Tell me about yourself.
So I'm originally from Houston. I grew up, I was a movie geek my entire life. I was like the weird nerdy kid in high school that like couldn't play sports and couldn't throw a ball, but I was really into movies and really into music and really into pop culture. And when I was 14, I did not like the film critic that the newspaper in Houston had, the Houston Chronicle. So I emailed them and asked, hey, do you mind if like I could be your second film critic? I could be like the Siskel to your Ebert. You could have two people. And somehow a 14-year-old talked himself into a staff position on working as the second film critic for the Houston Chronicle. So I did that through high school. Being a film critic for a newspaper does not make you popular in high school. I thought that was going to make me really cool, and it did not whatsoever. And then when I was a senior in high school, I noticed that none of the television stations in Houston had really any kind of like an entertainment presence. No one was reviewing movies. No one was really doing the kind of stuff that I wanted to see on the news. So I started emailing every TV station every week. After the first week, I got no response. And so I just sent it again and no response. And I sent the same email to every TV station every week for 57 weeks. Until finally there was a TV station that was just like, dude, you gotta stop, man. Like, you come on, we'll let you review something. And they brought me on, they let me review a few movies. Slowly it turned into a regular gig. And then I was a freshman and I was 18. I was a freshman in college.
This was Houston.
Houston, yeah.
So for people who don't know TV news, Houston, let alone it's impressive that a freshman in college you were on TV, but Houston, I think that's number 4 right now in market size in the U.S. So
it's up there.
Incredible.
It's up there. If you were to talk to the guy who gave me my shot, who ended up being a massive influence on my career, I think he would probably tell you that I annoyed my way into a job, which is that's kind of my A game. That's basically, you know, what happens is movie studios, they hire smaller PR companies because let's say Warner Brothers, for example, they don't have it within themselves to see what every single city is doing to make sure their films are promoted. So they hire local PR companies basically to like promote art, like, hey, make sure the word gets out about Wonder Woman. Make sure the word gets out about Batman or whatever the case may be. So all of a sudden, they catch word that there's a kid on TV talking about movies in Houston. My station comes to me and they say, hey, we just heard from this studio. They want you to go to LA and interview Jackie Chan. And I was like, I don't, like, what are you talking about? They want me to go to, like, at the time, because it's, I'm sure you know the word. For people that don't know, it's referred to as a junket. A junket is basically a press day, a collection of days where studios will fly reporters in from around the world, and you get to interview the stars, the directors of a movie for usually 5, 6, 7 minutes at a time. So, you know, oftentimes it's referred to as, oh, I'm doing I'm doing the Batman junket. I'm doing the Wonder Woman junket. And they had to explain all of that to me. At the time, now it's nomenclature. It's part of my vernacular every single day. But at the time, I was 18 years old. I didn't understand the concept that someone was willing to fly me to the other side of the country to sit in front of Jackie Chan. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never done a celebrity. It's a crazy concept for any point in your career, much less for an 18-year-old who's only been on television for a few weeks at this point. I got my happy ass on a plane and flew to the other side of the country. Thank God there were kind people that saw the look in my eyes and realized that I had no idea what I was doing and kind of helped me to the point where I didn't even know to go. For like the first 3 years of my career, I never wore makeup because I always thought like, oh, that's just for the women. Like only women wear. Yeah, I didn't know. And so finally someone was like, hey, and I must have looked terrible because they're like, you need to put on makeup. So they,
Yeah.
yeah, just a little bit of something. So that was 14, almost 15 years ago.
That's crazy. Okay, so I feel like this is a common theme from some people who I've talked to in similar positions as you. I always tell people, from what I know, you need to be ready to hustle. It's not like a job that you just get. You don't get, like, how do you get another job, like a 9 to 5? Everyone I know who has made it in entertainment is a hustler, has wormed their way in, has worked from gig to get where they are.
Yeah. And not just, I mean, you're absolutely right in that there is no such thing as a 9 to 5 in any job when it comes to news. Like, your phone, like, is always on. You know, my shift technically ends at, 2 o'clock today. But if there's breaking entertainment news at 3:55, you can bet your ass I'm going to be on the 4 o'clock shift. And you want that. You want to put yourself in a position where you're needed and you're wanted and you're the first person that your station calls whenever something like that goes down. Another thing that I would say is it's great to have a focus and it's great to know what you want your niche to be, but you need to have a fundamental understanding of every other position in your station. So often interns come into my station and they'll say, like, hey, I really want to do entertainment or I want to do sports. What I hate hearing the most is I want to be an anchor, which I'm like, okay, slow down. First of all, like,
that too. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's the
No.
interns always say, I want to be the anchor. And I'm like,
sure. That's like stepping into your Pee Wee football league and be like, I'd like to be the starter for the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
Like, okay, there are a few steps you got to take before you get there. I always tell people, if you want to be on air, even before you figure out what you want your beat to be, you need to understand all the other positions at the station. Before you figure it out on air. To understand editing and photography and line producing is only going to make you better. And then you figure out what you want your beat to be.
Yeah, and then also I think even for just straight up reporting, when you are lucky enough to have someone who is shooting and editing for you, because you know how to do it too, you can come to them and you can say, I want it to look this way, or I want it this way, or you can discuss it because you know what you're talking about.
You don't want to be a talking head.
That's like the worst thing you can be.
100%. And also just, watching other people's work so you kind of figure out what you do like and what you don't like. I don't like when that you cross dissolve to my stand-up, or I don't like when you do, whenever you start understanding what you do and do not like, you can take that and make it better. But it's nice to know to sort of look, I'm not saying copy, but like look at national outlook, look at people who you like and go from there. I mean, some of the greatest movie directors of all time have figured out their style by growing up on other directors. Like Quentin Tarantino is a perfect example of a dude who grew up in a video store, understood what other directors did, liked that, and adjusted it into his own style. There's no reason a reporter can't do the same.
100%. It's inspiration. So I guess I would say for that college student, or hey, you don't have to be a college student. You can be 40 years old and deciding you want to try something new. If they want to break into entertainment, how should they go about that?
What's your advice as someone who's been there?
That's always one of the toughest questions for me to answer. If only just because, like I was like, my path is so weird. How I got into this, and it wasn't necessarily a traditional path. But that being said, because there are so many different outlets available today, there are more outlets that have been created in the last 10 years, I think, than probably existed in the 30, 40 years prior. And it's all because everyone has one of these. Everyone has a camera. They have the ability to edit. They had, even though you don't have an audience right now, start creating, start putting stuff together, start going out and telling stories. Whenever I was brought to Chicago for my audition, because keep in mind, this is my first full-time job. The guy that gave me my shot in Houston became the head of Fox News here in Chicago. He was here for about 6 months, got me on the phone, was like, hey, there's a position here in Chicago. Do you want to come audition for it?
It was an audition.
Oh, yeah. So my interview was just shooting the bull and just kind of talking and stuff. And they said, hey, you're pretty self-sufficient. Like, you can find a story and you're pretty good at shooting and editing and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, I think so. I think I can do it. And they said, cool, you've got 90 minutes. Go shoot a story and bring it back to us. I knew nothing about the city of Chicago. Didn't know how to get around. Didn't know what I was doing. I took my phone, ran out into the streets, came up with a story idea, shot it, edited it, brought it back to them.
What was
it? I wanted to do something that I knew I could pull off pretty instantly. And it was, so many iconic movie scenes have been shot in and around downtown Chicago. So I did this thing where, what do they look like in the movie versus what do they look like today? So I Googled where, in The Untouchables, when the baby carriage is going down the stairs, and The Dark Knight, when they flip the 18-wheeler, and Ferris Bueller, when he's doing the parade. And they're all within about a mile of each other. So I just was sprinting from place to place, and I would shoot it on my phone and then download the footage off YouTube, what it looked like in the movie, and kind of edit them together. I did a voiceover track in a corner like that and brought it back to them. And so I guess the reason that I had the ability to do that is because I was kind of just doing that as for fun on my own. I liked putting pieces together. I liked sort of telling those kinds of stories. So I would say, even if you don't have an audience, because it can be really discouraging, I think, to do something without having a bunch of people watch it, but still do it. Even if you don't have an audience, still practice, because you never know when a day may come when someone says, hey, like, send me a couple of your pieces. Send me like some of your writing samples. Send me some of your videos. Send me some of your interviews. And if you don't have any, if you've been waiting for someone to give you a job to do those things, then they're going to go, why, like, we don't have an example of if you're good. Like, we don't, so you need to, whether one person is watching or 100,000 people are watching, if you want to do something, just start doing it. Because one day, when someone finally does give you a shot, they're going to want to make sure that you can. Figure out what it is that you want to start doing, whether it's sports or entertainment or editing or photography. Figure it out and then just go do it. And on the side, start trying to get that job. And then one day the two will come together. Because you can't have you can't have an empty resume when someone finally knocks on your door.
No, and that's happened to me multiple times. Once you actually do start pursuing something actively, I feel like so many times someone will just ask on the fly to see something of yours, so just have it ready.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the opportunity, if you're watching this and you don't follow Jake on Instagram, I'll put a picture up of your profile. Once you go to his profile, you'll see
you have so many amazing opportunities. You interview some of the people, like the biggest celebrities. What have been some of the funniest moments for you? Some funny, quirky stories?
Oh my God. So the craziest thing I think that has ever happened, I truly loved and genuinely miss Robin Williams. And he is a guy who I learned, so what happens is when you do an interview, all of the interviews take place basically in a hotel room. And you're one of like a processing line of people. So you're waiting outside for your turn to go. One person goes in, you wait for them to finish, they come out, they call your name, then you go in. They stay seated the whole time. So anyway, so imagine sitting outside this room and you're just hearing just yells and the craziest sound effects and the scream. I mean, he is as wild and unpredictable off camera as he was in his films. I remember the very first time that I interviewed him, I don't know, I was like 18 or 19 years old. And I really wanted him to be funny, but I also was asking kind of serious questions. And I was just too over-prepared. And I learned later that he's someone that you just shouldn't prepare for. You just go in and just kind of let it wash over you. But I was way overly prepared. And I had beats that I wanted to hit, And I think when the interview was over, he honestly, he must have read it on my face. Because it wasn't it was a very insightful interview, but it wasn't funny. And everyone else was getting funny Robin Williams, and he was making sound effects and stuff. And I started to get up, and he kind of paused. He goes, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I go, everyone else got funny, and I didn't get funny. And he goes, oh, did you want me to be funny? And I go, kind of. He goes, look, and there's someone in the corner who's timing you, who's telling you how long you have left. And he turns around and he goes, start his time over. And he sits me back down and basically did a 5-minute stand-up in front, just started going off. Texas, because I was at Texas at the time. Let me tell you about Texas. And just went off. And basically I got a one-man private Robin Williams stand-up performance.
Wow.
Because he realized this 18-year-old kid was mad. I was mad at myself because I didn't think I performed well enough. And also the story that still blows my mind whenever people ask what's the craziest experience in my life. So Tom Cruise got it within himself that this is the most name-dropping career in the world. There's no way
to
tell a story. Yeah. Oh, it's the douchiest thing. I grew up, I have a very loving, supportive family. My folks, my sister, my grandma, aunts and uncles, cousins, and all that. But they're all in the medical field and in oil and gas, and they are in no way impressed by celebrities or Hollywood. So they never let me tell stories like this. So Tom Cruise got it within himself that he didn't want to do interviews sitting in a hotel room anymore. He was tired of it. It was repetitive. It was boring. He didn't want to do that. So he picked a handful of journalists and flew us to Spain for this movie that he had coming out. And he wanted to recreate what it felt like to be in an action film. And it was in a movie with Cameron Diaz called Night and Day. So what he did was the studio blocked off about a 5 square mile area of Seville, Spain, and put cameras all over the place. And then had a control booth with a director and a producer and everything, and basically set up an action sequence where we would get in a BMW, he would get on a Ducati, Cameron Diaz is driving the BMW that you're in, and he would basically come up to you and kind of give you a hard time, like, okay, like normally I like Jake, I know you, like normally you're comfortable sitting in a Four Seasons hotel room. I want to see if you can catch me. Like now you're on my turf. Normally I'm in your turf now. So he would take off through the streets of Seville. Cameron Diaz peels out. You're driving the Beamer. You're like turning the corners and stuff. You're screaming. And all the while, you're supposed to be kind of interviewing Cameron Diaz while she's like turning and everything. You're doing, donuts and all kind of stuff. Tom Cruise is spinning around you in a Ducati. And then, you squeal to a stop, you get out, and then like you do a quick interview with Tom Cruise. And so that was, whenever people ask like the coolest interview experience, like that was, because that's one of those moments when it was over. I remember at the end of the day sitting in my hotel room in Spain being like, that is not a thing that should happen, like to a normal kid who grew up in a small town in Texas. A kid that talked his way into a job one day, that's not a thing that should have happened. And I got paid to do that.
Crazy.
Someone was stupid enough to pay me.
That's amazing. And honestly,
that's such a fun story. But the Robin Williams one really sticks out to me too, because I feel like they are in these hotel rooms talking to reporter after reporter after reporter. And as a reporter, I know you probably are aware, you're probably always trying to make your questions different, trying to make sure they're having fun, trying to go like above and beyond so they're not just rolling their eyes like another reporter. So like
the fact that someone that huge, that famous,
it just speaks so much about his character and the heart that we all like knew him to have, that he went out of his way to do that for you,
when like he doesn't get anything out of that.
Yeah, you're absolutely, all he did was extend his day. He made his day longer. All he was worried about was everyone else in the room. And for me, the number one indicator of people, whether it's a celebrity or a politician or sports person or whatever, it's how they treat the crew. Ryan Gosling came into our studio here in Chicago and must have stayed for half an hour, 45 minutes, taking pictures with a line of people out the door. And he was totally cool with it.
Yeah, that's incredible. I wanted to ask about this too. We don't have to name drop here. I don't want to like,
no.
Anyone, but do you run into...
I feel like you always see certain situations where celebrities just don't feel like being on camera.
Sure.
And not always. I think people don't get this. Well, you should know. #fake news. People aren't always nice to the media.
Do you ever run into that? Sometimes it's hard being in your job, dealing with personalities and trying to not be like an annoying reporter.
Sure. So it's a double-edged sword, but it's hard for other people that don't have this profession to understand what I mean. This is a hard profession to have a bad day in. If I have a fight with my girlfriend or something 5 minutes before I go on air, you got to suck it up. You got to get over it. You can't really let...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I've had really bad days where maybe just work just didn't go well. And then you walking out into the street and someone wants to come up and take a selfie. You can't be rude. You can't be a jerk to that person, because that is their entire perception of you. The stories they're going to tell about you are going to revolve around that 90 seconds. And also, it's not that much effort to be a kind person.
You seem naturally good at it, though, to be fair.
Trust me, it has been bettered by my Southern upbringing. But like everybody, I have days. So I try to remember that if I'm ever talking to someone or interviewing anybody, I always try to think, okay, maybe they're having a bad day. So it's all about being kind to people that can't necessarily maybe do something for you. Tom Hanks walks into a room, before he talks to you, he's gonna ask the cameraman, hey, where are you from? How long you lived in Chicago? How long you been here? I guess it's just a double-edged sort of like remembering from an outsider's perspective. We have bad days too, but for them, from our perspective, it's not that hard not to be a dick.
Well said. Well said.
Stitch that on a small pillow.
I love it. Embroider it. Real nice.
Yeah, exactly.
What would be like your number one tip?
Jake Hamilton's number one tip for excelling.
Especially because I bet a lot of people who are watching this are probably clicking on it because they look at your profile, they look at your videos, and they want to be just like you.
The number one, that's such a good question. See, I told you I wasn't going to be prepared for this. I told you I wasn't going to have
Take your time. Take your time. I know these are the worst questions. They're so hard.
No, they're not at all. They're great questions, which is why I don't have automatic answers to them. I would say the number one tip is do not give yourself a timeline. This job is so fluctuating and it's so changing on a daily basis. And, you have to realize that this business also changes slowly. You don't get the job that you want instantly like that, or you don't get the pay that you want instantly like that, or you don't get the market that you want instantly like that. Sort of my own individual path, which seems escalated because I can tell the story in a very truncated manner, still took a long time. I was not getting paid for a long time. Whenever I started in television when I was 18, I wasn't getting paid. So I would wake up in the morning, go do the morning show, go to college, and then go wait tables at night. And I would do that like Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, I'd hop on a plane and go to LA and do whatever junket I was doing. There's a phrase, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something along the lines of, right now you have what you wished for one day, or what you wished for in the past.
True.
And so you have to go by your own timeline, and your own timeline should be happiness. Like, are you happy that you got what you have right now? Appreciate it, work harder, figure out what the next thing is, have specific goals, they'll yield specific results. But if you give yourself a year and it doesn't happen, that's not how this industry works. They don't go by our timelines, they go by their timelines.
So is there anything
that I haven't hit on that you think is cool for people to know, important, funny?
you just like talking about it?
I'm gonna come up with 10,000 things after we wrap this up. But it really is. It's the best job in the world. It sounds super cheesy and it sounds super cliche, but I genuinely wake up every day and I get excited about my job, and I love my job, and I get jacked over the people I get to interview. And I always tell people I get to do for a living what I would do in my free time, which is like watch movies and watch TV shows and like geek out with people about them. I get paid to be a nerd for a living. So if you love this industry, if you love storytelling, if you are somehow fortunate enough to get to cover a beat that means a lot to you, whether it's sports or politics or entertainment or general feature stories or general assignment stories or whatever the case may be, if you can fight to move in the direction of what it is that you love, it's going to be the greatest life, because the things that you and I get to see as a result of our profession, we see more and get to experience more in a year than most people get to in a lifetime. And that is a direct result of being in this profession and being in this job. Honest to God, I would not trade this profession for the world. It's the greatest job anybody could ever have.
Yeah, I can tell. You're so passionate. It shows in your work and everything. I'm so impressed with like your whole story.
Keep going.
No, you're wonderful. You're great.
There we go.
Thanks so much. It was so
fun. Of course.
I feel like we've chatted. It was so fun to actually talk.
I know. It's seriously, anytime you ever need anything, please let me know. And if you guys ever make it through when the world's normal, if you make it through Chicago, let me know.
I most definitely will.
Thank you, Sarah.
It was fun.
See you later. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's the Lady of the Lake.
He sounded so nice.
I'm so recording. I'm obsessed with him. He was great. Want to say hi, Savannah?
Hello, I'm obsessed with him too.
He was so fun. I'm like sweating. I'm in so many sweatpants. I hope you guys learned a lot from that. I learned a ton from that. Jake is a really kind person, really authentic as well. I had so much fun talking to him. Go ahead, follow him on Instagram. His handle is Jake Steaks.
So I obviously recorded all of this before I edited the piece and spent days diving into Jake's YouTube, Jake's Takes, for all of the video in this piece that you've watched. By the way, fantastic YouTube. You can spend a whole day binging that. Now I am very, very, very aware that Jake's handle is Jake's Takes, but truly this mess up at the end of a long day was too funny to edit out, so enjoy.
I don't know if I'm wrong.
No, you're probably right. Redoing that real quick, my lovely roommate Savannah overheard me and she pointed out that Jake's Instagram is probably Jake's Takes, not Jake Steaks. Sorry, Jake. Always do your research. Always do your research. All right, you guys, follow Jake's Takes or Jake Steaks. Maybe that's a good Instagram too.
Now that we have witnessed me on Zero Sleep, messing up a lot, here are my final thoughts post-interview on Jake's Takes. Not the actually really delicious looking Jake Steaks.
I would say something that resonated with me the most out of that was I personally have found that I excel in reporting in my career whenever I feel like I'm authentically being myself the most, or whenever I feel like I'm doing what I'm most passionate about. So I know it's hard. This was always the hardest for me, especially when I was in college. People would be like, just do what you're passionate about. And be like, I don't quite know what to do. But truly, I think if you can find what makes you happy and when you spend your day doing it, you end the day with more of a smile on your face and you feel more fulfilled. If you can find what that thing is and you can work hard at that and you can pepper someone with emails just like Jake did, I think that's your ticket to success. And if you ever want a second glance at some of your work, you can always email me and I'll try to take a look at it. Or you can DM me on Instagram and I will try to take a look at it there as well. Thanks so much for watching.